Welcome back to Transcriber from Reddit. As promised, today's video will be part 2, Legal Issues, from the blog post titled 2 WELS Pastors and 4 Meritless Lawsuits. Part 2, Legal Issues. In order for a behavior to be harassment, it has to serve no legitimate purpose. Does writing a letter to the men, WELS pastors, who would help decide Skorczewski's CRM status serve no legitimate purpose? And does showing up at a congregational meeting where they are discussing how your wife was treated, and where the district president is seeking comments and advice about whether that pastor should get CRM status, does that serve no legitimate purpose? Is that inappropriate behavior? Or could those be the behaviors of a man trying to protect and defend his wife? The allegations Mara made against Skorczewski were not false. A false allegation would serve no legitimate purpose, but a truthful allegation does. If certain WELS pastors and a certain WELS congregation are going to be specifically asked to provide comments about whether Skorczewski should serve as a pastor again, is it legitimate that they should also hear from the victim or her representative? Just like before, this part begins my commentary. To begin with, we have an alleged case of harassment from 2 pastors and 2 church staffers against the husband of the alleged victim. Let's start by looking at harassment. Would a reasonable person think that a husband or partner, more generically, partner, of the alleged victim writing letters to pastors, or in this case, pastors and district presidents who happen to be in charge of considering whether or not to grant a certain resigned pastor CRM status? Let me remind you, CRM status means you are above reproach and able to be a pastor again. Does harassment also include showing up to a meeting where the CRM status, again, is being discussed? And if someone was harassing, would they not have been told that they are not invited ahead of time? If the harassment truly was that serious? Also, keep in mind that the alleged harassment is because the alleged victim and her husband found out that the perpetrator, or the resigned pastor in this case, is seriously being considered for CRM status, which means he would get to be a pastor again. That adds gravity to the situation. Now let's take a look at the alleged victim. Her name's Mara Donnan. Her allegations were made end of 2010, beginning of 2011, and from 2011 to 2013, she initiated, along with her husband, the process of investigating Pastor Ski. Keep in mind, I don't know how much pushback they received from leadership in the WELS between other pastors and District President Engelbrecht at the time, while they were pushing for this investigation to happen. Also keep in mind that although Pastor Glendy was alleged to have joined in on the sexual harassment of Mara, only Pastor Ski was suspended and later resigned. Another thing is that the investigation itself probably took roughly 1.5 to 2 years to complete. We can ask ourselves, Playing as devil's advocate for a moment, would Mara have anything to gain by these allegations if perhaps they turned out to be false? The answer is no. First to consider is the impact of the Me Too movement. Since this happened in 2013, the Me Too movement, starting in 2015, would not have impacted it. Keep in mind that the allegations made since Me Too took traction starting in 2015, whether proven to be true, false, or there wasn't enough evidence to support either, had two things to gain: either money or fame through social media. In this case, Mara had neither. Social media was still relatively in its infancy stage, especially its impact on cases like this. Also, keep in mind that the WELS is very much an insular congregation. To keep it short and simple, they have their own rules for how they deal with cases like this, and you are expected to abide by those rules. Matthew 18 being a major player. Regardless of whether or not Mara's allegations could be proven to be true or not, she would be expected to abide by those rules and regulations while being under the scrutiny of every single WELS member of that congregation, as well as any WELS member who would hear of it from neighboring congregations. Finally, the last piece of evidence to consider is that two pastors signed off on the letter that Jonathan and Mara wrote to all of the pastors that were going to consider Ski's CRM status. Would two pastors sign off on a letter if they suspected the allegations were not true? Unfortunately, I do not have any records available to me, at least at the moment, of what transpired during the investigation from 2011 to 2013. However, I do have the court transcript, including this blog, that I will be bringing to light, because it is time for Mara's and Jonathan's voices to be heard. And that's it for today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.